Twiddling.
Well, I don't have much twiddling to do. But today you are in luck because you found David Daniel sitting here on the front porch in front of
The Centreville Press. Yeah.
And as you may know, he is the editor of the Centreville Press, and I am his gopher. And today you're also in luck because in a few short minutes, we have the sheriff of Bibb County, Mr. Jody Wade.
The high sheriff.
The high sheriff. He's one of the best known and most liked people in Bibb County. And he's coming over here, and we're going to talk to him about what's going on in Bibb County. And you can come inside the Centreville Press today and join us and find out just exactly what's new and what the forecast for the crime prevention measures are that for the county for the coming year. What's happening, what's good, what's not good, and learn what the sheriff can tell us about crime prevention in Bibb County. So hang around. We're going to talk to the sheriff and find out what's new for 2022.
Yeah, don't go away. We're going to do something important eventually.
That's right. And if you don't like what we have to say, you don't have to watch it. But if you like, if you enjoy it, we'll have some more interviews with public officials coming up for you.
We're going to be doing more and more, aren't we?
That's right, right here on the Centreville Press. So stay tuned.
All right, thank you.
Oops. Kick that thing. I'm gonna put this right over here. So we got two sound levels. I was down at the cemetery for that memorial the other day, and my sound recorder failed.
Oh, wow.
So on this one, I'm gonna have more than one. So I'm here today to talk to Bibb County Sheriff Jody Wade, Sheriff of Bibb County. Glad to have you here with us at the Centreville Press today, Jody.
Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate you having me.
Glad you could come and take some time out of your day to tell us about some of the things that are going on in Bibb County, and we won't keep you away from your duties very long, but we do want to talk to you about some of the things that you're dealing with on a daily basis. We want to talk to you about what's going on in your department and what some of your challenges are being a sheriff of this county, and what some of the good things are that are going on in a challenging world with law enforcement officers deterring crime, and the good things that could be described as being good about living in a county like Bibb County.
Yes, sir.
So you're the man that will know the answer to those questions, because I know you've been in law enforcement for a long time.
Yes, sir.
How long is that?
I'm on my 29th year. I think May 8th will be 29 years.
29 years, and how many of those in Bibb County?
I moved here in 1996.
And you've been sheriff now for?
Since 2016.
2016.
Yes, sir.
So that's 6 years.
Yes,
okay.
Sir.
So let's talk a little bit about crime and crime rates. When we look around the country and even around the state, and you look at the national news and even news across the state of Alabama in the bigger counties, bigger cities, it looks like crime, especially violent crime, is just mushrooming, going up. What do you have to say about that, and what do you have to say about crime rates in Bibb County?
I would say, fortunately, that we don't face the challenges a lot of larger counties and in different states are facing at this time. I mean, we have a good police departments, we have a good sheriff's department, we've got a lot of good emergency resources at our disposal, and I just feel that we haven't been touched quite as badly as the rest of the nation has. Well,
is there a difference in Bibb County in the comparison? I'm not a crime statistic expert, but I do know that the FBI categorizes crime in different ways. For example, property crimes versus violent crimes; those are different statistics. Is there a difference in Bibb County in the incidences of property crimes versus violent crimes?
I would say most of our violent crimes are going to be of a domestic nature between two parties that are already familiar with each other and know each other. As far as the property crimes, we have a little less than the counties around us, but I would say overall the drugs and the property crimes are our biggest challenges.
So drugs and property crimes.
Yes, sir.
We have a very low incidence rate of violent crimes or crimes involving murder or homicide.
Yes, sir. Very low.
Very low in that category. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
What I don't hear about is people shooting at one another, or I don't even recall but one or two homicides occurring in this county in the last few years. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, sir. We've had a few, and of course, one's too many. But fortunately, we haven't been touched by that as bad as a lot of counties throughout the state.
Okay. So, in terms of being a safe place to live, how would you compare Bibb County with other counties near us that you're familiar with? What can you say about that?
I would say Bibb County is a very safe and a very friendly place to live. And in fact, before I moved here, I went and looked around at different departments and in different counties. I wanted to live in a county that was more of a hometown type county than a large metropolitan area, naturally. So that was my first criteria. And as I come to Bibb County and rode around a few days on my off days, just getting to know people and talking to people, I chose Bibb County for me and my family. And it's been a wonderful place to live.
All right. Well, one of the things that we know about your department is that Bibb County is a small county compared to, I don't even know what number we are out of 67 counties in the state. I know that our population is 22,000, I think. I don't know where we are on the ladder of comparison to all the rest of them. I can't call it up in my mind right now. But how do you stack up with your staffing your department? How many officers do you have in your department?
Well, we have 10 full-time officers, and we have 4 part-time APOS certified officers, and then we have several reserves, one of which we just hired and is in the academy now.
And is that enough officers to cover all of Bibb County for you?
Yes, sir. I'd say it's never enough, and you always want more, but the county commission has been very, very good to my department in making sure that we have the adequate staff that we can with the money that is available to fund us. So I think as far as the staffing issues and things like that, be it at the sheriff's office or at the jail, which is under me as well, the county commission has done the best they can to provide us with adequate funds to man those departments.
So I know that recently we had some issues that were possibly going to affect Bibb County, and you spoke out on them when there was a possibility of additional prisons being built in Bibb County and how that would tax your department. And of course that did not happen, or has not happened.
No.
But what would the effect have been on your department if additional prisons requiring additional staffing and additional demand on your department? What would that have created for you?
Well, it would have created some problems, of course, and it wouldn't be just affecting my department. It would have affected, our volunteer fire departments, our emergency response personnel, be it the ambulance, the capacity at the hospital to be able to take care of any patients that come from there, because they were talking about building a mega prison. So it was going to be far larger, with a larger population than what we currently have at the Bibb Correctional Facility in Brent. Mm-hmm. So I believe that my main objection to it was from a public safety standpoint, be it just with the sheriff's department or the municipalities that will come back us up when we need the additional help. I just felt like Bibb County is to a point with our hospitals, our ambulance services, our volunteer fire departments, we're at a good point to where it is a safe and friendly community to live in. And I was upset about the idea of somebody coming in and dropping that large number of additional inmates, and which would be the additional calls that we would have in the services for that prison, and the location of where they were going to put it in Briarfield, which would have put it just about as far as you could get away from the major emergency resources that we'd have available to assist them if they needed it. That was my main concern. I know there were concerns throughout the state, and I believe Russell Bedsoe, a representative that represents our area, even said it was not the right plan for Alabama nor Bibb County.
Okay. Well, with the staffing levels that you have in your department, you mentioned, I think the number was 10, like 10 officers.
Yes, sir.
How do you, your command and control, who are the officers that back you up in management of the department? Who are they?
Well, I have my Chief Deputy, Kenneth Williams, who does a tremendous job. I have my Captain, Rusty Price, who does an outstanding job. I have my Lieutenant, Ned Underwood, and each of these guys has a different role. I have my Sergeant, Charles Ball. So they have their different areas that they're over as they cover them. And, such as with Ned Underwood, he's having to cover, being a supervisor, being a deputy, answering calls, keeping an eye on the sex offenders because he's over that. He runs our reserve program. Everything goes through him. Captain Rusty Price, he does a lot of work as far as the grant writing and trying to find extra funds that may be available to help us, be it, financially, equipment, vehicles, and things like that. Mm-hmm. So everybody has their role, but everybody is still a cop. And that's the thing about a small town and a small department. It's kind of like a family. We all get along good. I mean, the guys have been there forever call me Jody. The guys that we just hired, they call me Sheriff. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a family atmosphere, and everybody's got everybody back. And be that the municipalities, the cities here in the county, they back us up, we back them up. So we have a very good relationship. But each officer throughout the county, for that matter, has so many roles that they have to fill. It's not just answering calls. You have so many things that you have to do. We have a full-time investigator, although all the deputies investigate the crimes, but we have an investigator, Chris Poole, who he just specifically works on investigations. But then there again, he still does have to answer calls and take care of the day-to-day problems.
Are your guys riding alone in patrol cars on nights and weekends?
Most of the time they are. Now, when our part-time guys will come out, a lot of times they'll accompany an officer and be with them. Our reserves will ride with them and assist them. 9 times out of 10, it is a single-man unit.
Okay. How far away on nights and weekends are they from backup?
It depends on what area of the county they're in. Our municipalities are somewhat spread out a little bit. You got Centreville and Brent right here together. And so if we have something major go on and we don't have enough personnel out, or they need some immediate backup, Centreville and Brent's going to come running and help us. Get the north end, Blockton, Woodstock, they're going to come help us. I would say the areas that you would go where you'd be furthest away from the help would be areas like we were talking about earlier, Briarfield, where they were talking about putting that prison.
Right. Well, how much... let's talk about the issues that you faced with staffing when you came into office, and what you've done to address staffing and pay issues for the guys in your department. What's different now than when you took command of the sheriff's department?
Well, I would say when I come in, I believe the starting pay for a deputy was like $10.59. We've got it up to $13.91 now. Mm-hmm. With the jail, it was a hair under $8 an hour starting. We've got that up to $11.30 an hour. So the county commission's been real good about increasing our budget so that we can better staff and maintain employees instead of losing them through attrition. They're real good about picking up the majority of the cost of the health insurance and things like that, which is a big draw because that is a big expense. So some of the guys can go and work somewhere else to make a little bit more money, but when you look at what they would have to pay in travel and paying their part of the insurance, it doesn't add up. So
has that helped you to keep people on your staff and keep them from jumping to bigger departments?
It has. We've been fortunate. And, it's everybody always has staffing issues and keeping the positions that we're allotted filled. So the majority of the guys that I've hired, I've had to send through the academy and get them trained. But the good thing is they were usually reserves with us. We knew them. They knew us. They knew if they were going to want to work with us, if we were going to be a good fit, we could see how they'd done their job. So we actually had a trial period with them before we sent them to the academy, and it's worked out really well.
When you hire a new officer, do they have to have any credential when they're hired in terms of training, or do you tell me how that process goes?
Well, high school diploma or GED and a clean criminal history.
And then if they work for a while and seem to be a good candidate, you send them on to the academy at the county's expense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that academy is what length? And how long does it take to get through the academy?
12 weeks.
12 weeks through there. And they come out as a certified police officer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And they can get what level of pay when they come out of the academy?
Well, the starting pay is still going to be the same.
Okay,
So you'll start out at that. When you come out of the academy, you're still at the same rate of pay.
okay. But you're qualified as a certified police officer at that point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You didn't mention, of the 10 people you mentioned, did that include the jail staff?
No, it did not. We're allotted 19 positions at the jail,
Okay,
and I believe we've hired 2 more today, actually, so it's going to get a closer up to our allotted number we have. You know, you'll have people coming and going, and especially with the issues with all this COVID, we've had people to get sick, be out, have entire shifts to have to go into quarantine because of the contact with them. So I'm really proud of the way the jail staff has stepped up and helped us keep this thing covered. It's been tough.
okay. Well, with the situation that officers face on the job out on patrol today, are these guys that are out there patrolling, are they all provided with safety equipment? I'm talking about body protective gear. Do they all have that?
Yes, sir.
Are they all fully trained in safety procedures to do the best that you can to ensure their safety when they're out there?
Yes, sir.
Do they have body cameras, all of them?
Yes, sir.
So everybody's using a body camera, everybody's got protective gear.
Yes, sir.
Do they have to wear that gear, or is it optional?
We prefer that they wear it, and there's going to be times that, like during the summer when it's extra hot and you're out there for an extended period of time on a scene or something like that, where they will, they'll take their vest off and things like that, just try to cool down a little bit. But in an emergency situation, yes, they are going to be wearing their body armor.
And what's the policy on body cameras? Do they have to turn them on, or is that optional?
They are supposed to turn them on anytime that they have interaction with the public in any way. But, if you're at the store and somebody comes up and they're wanting to talk to you, you're not going to cut your body camera on.
Right.
If you're making a vehicle stop, yes, you're going to cut it on. If you're going on a domestic call, you're going to cut the body camera on. So, but it's not optional. And, the unfortunate thing about that is if something happens really quickly that you're not expecting, you don't have time to reach and cut that body camera on and make sure it's on. So there are good things and there are bad things. I think one of the best parts of them is the documentation of the events and then the protection of the officers themselves, because we've had people that would come in and want to complain on a deputy. We pull the body camera and they'll apologize and walk out. So I think it's been good for the officers and good for the citizens.
Generally, it will go both ways, won't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, let's change subjects a little bit and talk about fiscal issues. You have an annual budget, I'm sure. Are you in control of your budget?
Well, the county commission is in control of the budget of what they allocate us. So they, cover the salaries and things like that, and they're part of the insurance, which is the majority of the part of their insurance.
Mm-hmm.
They're part of what they pay into our retirement system that we have, because we're RSA members, Retirement Systems of Alabama. They pay a part in that. So if, they'll give us approval on like vehicles and things like that. We buy some vehicles out of discretionary funds. We buy the majority of our equipment out of a discretionary fund that we have at the sheriff's office. But the bulk of it naturally is going to come from the county commission.
Well, once they approve the annual budget, do you have the discretion to make purchases and expenditures without going back to the county commission for approval on every individual item? Is that right?
Well, it's something that reaches the criteria to where we have to bid it out, and I can't think of the number off the top of my head where the threshold is. But if it's to a certain amount, but we're always going to call and ask them before we make any kind of purchase that would be outside of what we're normally budgeted for. So then they're good to work with us on that.
Well, do you get the kind of support, and you've already answered this, but I'm going to ask you anyway again, are you getting the kind of support out of the county commission when you make a request for funding of items that you need, equipment, cars,
Yes, sir.
whatever?
Yes, sir, I do. I've talked to many sheriffs throughout the state, and of course there's 67 of us, and I've talked to a lot of them, and some of them get along good with their commission, some of them, butt heads with their commission, but 9 times out of 10, when I'm talking to one of the commissioners, first thing they ask me is there anything y'all need? How's it going? And I was at a commission meeting Monday night, and every one of them come to me and ask me, how's it going? How's everything looking? Y'all need anything? And so they'll normally come to me and ask if we need anything before I go to them and ask for something. So I've had a very good relationship with the county commission.
Oh, good. Well, now, I know that the public examiners of public accounts audit county commissions, they audit sheriff's accounts from time to time. Have you ever been audited by the examiners of public accounts or your department?
Yes, sir.
And have you had any problems with audits?
No, sir. No, sir.
How often do they examine your record?
they're normally scheduled to come every 3 years and audit our books. They audit the county commission separate than what they do us with the discretionary funds that we have. But yeah, we're very fortunate in that. My chief clerk, Leslie Hubbard, she does a good job keeping on top of everything, so there's never really any complaints from them unless there's some kind of new rule or regulation that comes up that they'll make us aware of, and then we'll get in compliance with that. We'd had a long time clerk, Nancy Reinhardt.
Yes.
And she had trained Leslie when Leslie first come. And the funny story about that is when Nancy was there and they would get a new auditor that would come, they would bring them to Bibb County to help, let Nancy help them learn how to do an audit properly. So we've never had a problem with audits, fortunately.
Well, do we still have also grand juries when they meet?
Yes, sir.
Inspecting the sheriff's office and the jail?
Yes,
Do
sir.
they do that?
Yes, sir.
How often do they do that?
Normally they're going to do it twice a year. Due to the COVID and stuff like that, sometimes you have to say, well, we're not going to do it right now, or just maybe right around the outside and let them see it. But normally they're going to, tour the office and the jail twice a year.
Are there any issues pending that the grand jury has identified in their report about the conditions at the jail?
None that I'm aware of at this time, no, sir.
Okay.
Because a lot of times I'll try to go out there with them and walk through and tell them what my concerns are and what we're looking at. I know at one time we had a lot of vehicles and trailers and scrap items that had been taken over the years and kind of had nowhere else to put them, and they would put them there and negate at the jail. And that was a concern of mine, of course, and a concern of some of the grand jury people that walked through and was inspecting the facility. And we got all that cleaned up now.
Great. Well, we hear constantly, and I think in the last 2 years in the Alabama prison system, there have been reported, I'm going to say 5 or 6 homicides in the Alabama prison system in the last 12 to 24 months that I personally not know about. There may be more because they don't report it, but it seems to make its way into the news. I haven't heard of any homicides at the Bibb County prison, but have there been any?
I know we have had some, and normally that's something that's investigated by their I&I, their internal investigations unit. They'll normally investigate the homicides that occur at their facility. So sometimes we'll hear about it. We won't know a lot about it unless we hear something from where the ambulance had to go out there and transport the person, or that the prison themselves would bring them to the hospital in one of their vans or transport vehicles.
Yeah, and I misspoke when I asked the question. You would know this. Have there been any homicides at the Bibb County jail?
No, sir.
I didn't think so.
No, sir.
But that was the intent of my question. Okay. At the Bibb County Jail, are you aware of any issues with transportation to and from the courthouse for prisoner access to court hearings?
Well, fortunately, we've got the video system set up now to where they can do it remotely. They can have their initial appearance before the judge without leaving the jail, which is a safety issue. That way they're not in a vehicle with the opportunity to escape. They're not having to take one of the staff members from the jail to transport inmates up here for appearances and court hearings. Now, there are still times when they are transported up here for in-person court hearings when they're going to have their attorney there with them. But fortunately, a lot of the times we're able to do it remotely.
They can also see a physician through that internet system.
Yes,
now.
sir. Yes, sir.
Bibb Medical Center.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you had any COVID problems at the jail?
Yes, sir.
Everybody has. I
Yes, sir.
assumed you would have too.
Yes, sir.
So what are the steps that are taken at the jail to address that?
Well, when we first bring in inmates, we will put them in a quarantine position to where we can watch them for several days unless they make bond prior to. So put them in there for a certain amount of time so that we can watch them, make sure they're not symptomatic or anything like that, temperature checks and things like that, try to keep everything wiped down, clean, and sanitized before they're put into the general population when that is possible. But yeah, we have had issues with COVID at the jail, and I think that's just something just unavoidable.
Okay. Well, that's pretty much the areas that I had pre-planned to talk to you about today. The other things that are going on in Bibb County today, I wanted to ask you if there's anything that in the news world that's on your mind that you want to talk about Bibb County that's going on.
There's not really anything that I can think of off the top of my head. I think everything's going good. You have your problems anywhere you go,
Right.
But by and large, Bibb County is a wonderful place and a safe place to live.
We haven't had any breaking news in the last week that was urgent news that I'm aware of. So that's all I got for today. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming over here and talking to the news. When you've got breaking news, give us a call. Sheriff, there is an election coming up. Are you going to be a candidate for re-election?
Oh, yes, sir. I qualified earlier this month.
All right. Well, we expect to see you on the ballot, and I hope you do well.
Well, excellent. I appreciate your support.
Thank you. All right.